On July 26, 2019, a user on the Perfect World Boyd server, a community dedicated to the online multiplayer game, Perfect World, sent a disturbing message to his friends on the app. With chilling confidence and without hesitation, he stated that he was going to kill his parents and then turn himself into the authorities. Initially, the other players dismissed it as a crude joke, an edgy, over-the-top form of trolling that is not uncommon in such gaming chats. However, their unease grew when, the following day, the same user posted a series of shocking photographs in the group's Discord channel. The images showed members of his family lying motionless on the floor. His online friends were horrified. Some speculated that the pictures might have been pulled from the darkest corners of the internet. Meanwhile, at a home located on Castelmore Avenue near Minji Avenue in Canada, a young man sat calmly, waiting for the police to arrive at his door. He was confident that his online friends would soon report him. Monsieur Saman and Momotis Pajiam had emigrated from Bangladesh to Canada in the late 1980s, driven by hopes of building a better life and starting a family in their new country. In 1996, they welcomed their first son, Maina. 2 years later, their family grew again with the birth of their daughter, Malek. Monsieris was a humble, introverted, and devoutly religious man. He worked as a taxi driver for Beck Taxi, where he was frequently recognized as one of the company's top-performing drivers of the month. Over time, he earned enough to purchase a spacious 4-bedroom home on Scarborough's McCowan Road in 2006, along with additional properties, a condominium in Scarborough and another house in Danforth. Momotis managed the rental of these properties to help supplement the family income. Her mother Firuza also emigrated from Bangladesh and took on the responsibility of caring for Menhaz and Melissa while their parents worked long hours. Momotis was a well-educated and generous woman. Her outgoing nature helped the family integrate comfortably into the growing Bangladeshi community in Scarborough. When she dined out with her friends, she often paid the bill and made sure to drive them home afterward. She loved cooking curry for her neighbors and was always ready to help anyone in need. Though both Momotis and Monsiris possessed a strong work ethic, they cherished their weekends, which they often spent with friends and relatives, enjoying picnics, watching movies, and sharing meals. Whether they were out watching movies or shopping at local bazaars, the family appeared by all accounts to be harmonious and perfectly ordinary. Menhaz, for his part, was seen as a typical teenager, although family acquaintances often referred to him as the golden child. He was clearly his mother's favorite. She would pick him up from school every day and take him out for lunch. Frequently, she would leave social gatherings early, worried that he might be home alone and possibly hungry. Both Momotis and Monarus placed all their hopes in him. They believed that with a solid education, he would go on to secure a prestigious career, perhaps as a doctor or engineer, and live a prosperous life. Their daughter Melissa also aspired to a bright future. She dreamed of becoming a neurosurgeon, a goal that made her parents equally proud. Menhaz never seemed to disappoint his parents. He helped his mother carry groceries from the car, kept the driveway clean, and accompanied his father to the mosque on Fridays. But beyond this obedient image, Menhaz was deeply introverted. He spent most of his time isolated in his room, absorbed in his computer. Around strangers, he was painfully shy, speaking softly, stammering, and rarely making eye contact, often staring down at his shoes. He had few friends and was considered an average student. He took courses in physics, chemistry, and mathematics subjects aligned with his father's ambition for him to pursue engineering. Throughout his teenage years, Menhaz remained withdrawn. He didn't date, attend parties, or express his emotions openly. After graduating from high school, he was admitted into the mechanical engineering program at York University, a milestone that filled his parents with pride. Meanwhile, Melissa was navigating adolescence while increasingly clashing with her family's traditional values. Despite maintaining a 92% average in school, she was suspended for raising her middle finger at a teacher during class. She smoked substances, drank Grey Goose vodka with her friends, and secretly dated boys, all while remaining devoted to her family and to Islam. Unlike her brother, Melissa frequently argued with her mother. On one occasion, when she was 15, Momotis threatened to cancel her birthday party because she disapproved of the dress Melissa wanted to wear. Her father was even stricter. He would physically punish her if she returned home late, and their fights occasionally escalated to the point that neighbors called the police. On some nights when Melissa broke curfew, Monaruz would lock her out of the house entirely. His mother would often leave the basement suite's back door unlocked, placing a stack of blankets and a pillow so Melissa would have a safe place to sleep when she was locked out. On occasion, when Melissa and Momotis argued, Menhaz would try to intervene, gently urging his mother to step away from his sister. However, whenever their father was home, he preferred to block out the yelling by putting on his headphones and locking himself in his room to play video games. The family dynamic worsened in 2017. Melissa was arrested for shoplifting at a Kennedy Road store in Markham. The charges were later dropped in exchange for community service, and she temporarily moved out to live with her boyfriend, wanting nothing to do with her parents. Eventually, though, she returned home. Meanwhile, Menhaz became increasingly withdrawn. even as he remained the pride of the family. Momotis often boasted to friends about how well her son was doing. She claimed he was excelling at university and still attended mosque regularly with her and her husband. By the age of 23, Menhaz was supposedly on the verge of graduating as an engineer. Every day, he would leave the house, board a bus, and later return, chatting about his engineering courses. At family dinners, he even spoke of pursuing a master's degree. But in truth, it was all a carefully maintained illusion. In reality, Menhaz had never been admitted to York University. He had barely managed to enroll in a local college and failed nearly every course, but he never confessed this to his parents. Instead, he told them he was on a full scholarship and achieving top grades. In 2015, after several academic terms, he dropped out entirely, yet he continued the pretense. Each morning, he packed his laptop in a backpack and walked to the bus stop on 16th Avenue. He boarded the 7 a.m. GO bus bound for the York University campus. Once there, he wandered the grounds for hours. In the afternoons, he exercised at a nearby gym and then returned home. After a few months, Menhaz stopped going to York altogether. He still left the house at the same time, but instead of heading to campus, he got off at the Markville Mall in Markham. From Monday to Thursday, he would wander around, sit in the food court or on a bench, open his laptop, and play online games. He became an active member of a server called Perfect World Boyd, dedicated to the game Perfect World. His in-game character was an elf cleric, responsible for healing others. Menhaz had built a reputation as a decent, reliable player in the online community. Online, Menhaz was able to craft a completely different persona from the one he lived in real life. Despite this, he remained inherently shy and attributed his social difficulties to autism. Even though he had never been formally diagnosed, he often referred to himself as the most famous autistic person in the game. Other players considered him a good friend, someone they interacted and played with daily. The only personal details they knew about him were that he lived in Canada and, according to him, attended university. Over time, Menhaz's virtual existence became his primary reality. His addiction to online gaming didn't stop when he left the house under the pretense of going to university. It consumed him completely. His online friends noticed that he was active during hours when they were logging off to sleep, and he would still be online when they returned the next morning. Yet no one suspected he might be struggling with deeper, personal issues. At least, not until he began to lose faith in Islam. On the server, he openly identified as an atheist. He started dating someone and told his online friends that he longed for a life free from parental control and religious constraints. Menhaz's behavior grew increasingly erratic. He began making homophobic remarks and speaking with disdain about religion, particularly Islam. Eventually, he was suspended from Discord for a few weeks due to this offensive behavior, but the disciplinary action did little to stop him. By March 2019, Menhaz began talking openly about ending his life. He told his friends on Discord that he planned to leave the game soon, not because he was quitting, but because he expected to be in prison. Despite these alarming comments, most of his online peers interpreted them as part of the dark humor they had grown used to. In reality, however, Menhaz was more isolated than ever. He ate alone in his bedroom while his family and guests gathered in the downstairs kitchen. He even changed his username in Perfect World Boyd to By the summer of 2019, time was running out. Menhaz had told his parents that he would be graduating with a degree in mechanical engineering. The date of his supposed graduation, July 28th, was fast approaching, and on that day he would be forced to tell them the truth. Menhaz would not be graduating, because he had never attended a single class. Yet the adults around him eagerly anticipated the ceremony, proudly telling their friends how thrilled they were to soon watch their son walk across the stage. Diploma in hand, on July 11th, Menhaz was banned from the Perfect World Boyd server for what a moderator described as a series of racist remarks. Then, on July 25th, he posted a troubling message in a group chat, claiming that his life was about to end because someone had alerted authorities about a plan he had supposedly devised and that, as a result, he had to carry it out as soon as possible. Following that message, Menhaz's account went silent for 24 hours. A fellow forum member, whose identity the media kept anonymous and referred to only as Anon, noticed the sudden inactivity. Concerned, Anon reached out the next day via a small private group chat, asking Menhaz how he was doing. That same day, Menhaz's online friends received a deeply disturbing message via Discord. In it, he stated that he was going to kill his parents and fully expected to be imprisoned for it. Once again, many in the chat assumed it was just another dark joke, tasteless, but not unusual for the platform. Around 3 p.m. on July 27th, Menhaz sent another message. This one, however, was far more explicit and horrifying. Without much introduction, he wrote, "So far, I've killed Mom and Grandma, waiting for my sister in 5 minutes, Dad in an hour." He also attached graphic images of what he had done. Disturbed, a user named John immediately went to another Discord server for Perfect World Boyd players. The group included members from all over the world: the United States, Egypt, Romania, Belgium, Israel, and Costa Rica. He shared Menhaz's messages with the group and asked if anyone thought he should report the situation. Among the members was a woman named Nicole, a criminal justice student with some background in forensic science. She was nearly certain that the injuries visible in the photographs were real, not staged. However, she also considered the possibility that the images might have been sourced from a dark corner of the internet. Nicole attempted a reverse image search using Google but found no match. This meant the photos had likely never been published online before, implying that Menhaz had taken them himself. She tried searching a few more databases, but again, there were no results. It was now official. Their online friend was a murderer. But there was one major problem. No one knew his real identity or exact location. No one knew the full name or exact location of the person behind Menhaz's account. One of the group members from Texas attempted to contact his local police department, but authorities didn't take the reports seriously. Meanwhile, a young man named Ayob received messages from other friends warning him about the situation, and he joined John's group chat. Over time, the group expanded to include about 10 members. They reached out to another user named Junior from Costa Rica, who they believed might know Menhaz better than the rest. Junior attempted to contact the Canadian directly, sending multiple messages to verify whether the disturbing claims were true. Eventually, Menhaz responded, "This may upset you, but I did it." To prove he wasn't lying, he sent a photograph of his family alive, all gathered around a birthday cake. Then, he told John and others in the chat that he was waiting for his father to return home, so he could kill him too. His father was expected to arrive in approximately 1 hour. Panic quickly spread throughout the group. They were no longer doubting that the murders were real, and they knew they had very little time to prevent a greater tragedy. Menhaz soon logged back into the game, which gave Austin, one of the administrators, an opportunity to track his IP address and narrow down his physical location. This time, they were able to trace it to a specific building on a particular street in Toronto. The group found the phone number associated with the internet account, hoping it might lead them to the exact apartment number. But when they called, they realized the number and linked address belonged to Menhaz's internet provider, not to his personal residence. Shortly after, Menhaz sent another photo, this time of an older man with his throat slashed. They had failed to save the father. The young man continued to send messages to other Discord users, writing things like, "I just killed my entire family." He included graphic photos of the crime scenes, explaining that part of him wanted the images to circulate quickly so that he would be caught, and the purgatory he was living in would finally come to an end. Some players began to fear the violence might extend beyond Menhaz's home. A few asked him what he planned to do next. His reply, "I'm going to see my girlfriend." They knew they had to act, and fast. The group redoubled their efforts to trace the IP address associated with Menhaz's account in hopes of pinpointing his exact location. They continued conversing with the young man to keep him occupied and prevent him from leaving his home. During those exchanges, he confessed to having planned the murders over a period of 3 years. He stated that he had killed his parents because he didn't want them to discover how useless he believed himself to be, nor to suffer the shame of having a son like him. He repeatedly referred to himself as subhuman, and explained that he had chosen to annihilate his family instead of taking his own life because, as an atheist, he feared death. He went on to say that he hoped he had made his online friends laugh at some point, and that they would remember him for the games they played together, rather than for the murders. Despite this brief glimpse of remorse, the young man also admitted to having repositioned the bodies of his victims within the house to ensure they appeared better in the photographs. At one point, a PWB forum administrator was able to obtain an IP address associated with Menhaz's account. However, the location traced back to New Brunswick, and one of the group members knew for certain that the suspect did not reside in that province. Eventually, one of the young people suggested they might extract more reliable information from Menhaz's linked Skype account. From this, they identified an IP address that placed him within the Greater Toronto area. A member of the team known online as Bianca realized the suspect lived quite close to her, just 12 kilometers away. Everything began to align when the Menhaz account started requesting email addresses from acquaintances to send them money via PayPal, claiming he wanted to give it away because he would no longer need it in prison. Bianca traced the origin of these transactions and discovered a physical address that matched the location previously obtained through the IP search. At last, they had pinpointed the suspect's exact location. The group contacted a Discord user based in Port Manisa who then called local police. That person was redirected to the Toronto Police Department, which, between 3 and 5 a.m., filed an emergency request with Discord to obtain any identifying information related to Menhaz. This yielded the suspect's IP address, which led authorities to the internet service provider, Rogers. Detectives contacted Rogers, who ultimately provided the physical address registered to Menhaz's account. The long night had finally come to an end for the Discord group, but not for the young killer. In July, police arrived at a residence located on Castlemore Avenue in Markham, a city in Ontario. They knocked on the door, stating that they were there to conduct a welfare check. Menhaz answered the door calmly, as if nothing had happened. Just seconds earlier, he had sent a message to John informing him that the police had arrived. Once inside, officers were met with a gruesome scene. The lifeless bodies of Monirouz, Momotaz, and Firosa lay on the floor. Menhaz was immediately arrested and charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder. The victims' bodies were transported to the nearest forensic facility, where autopsies revealed that Menhaz had bludgeoned each family member in the head with a crowbar before slitting their throats. Later released interrogation tapes showed Menhaz calmly confessing to the murders, telling a detective that some members of his family were dead because of him, though he initially refused to discuss his motive. However, he would later offer a chilling admission. He had killed his family to prevent them from discovering that he had lied for years about attending university. Simultaneously, investigators gained access to Discord messages in which Menhaz admitted to having plotted the murders for 3 years. Thanks to these chat logs, forensic evidence, and the testimonies of other Discord group members, authorities were able to piece together a detailed reconstruction of the tragic events. On July 27th, the day before his supposed graduation, Menhaz awoke with a sharp pain in his stomach. His father had left for his late-night taxi shift, and his mother had gone to a part-time cashier job at Food Basics. Menhaz's grandmother, Firosa, who lived in her own apartment in Toronto, was visiting the family that weekend. Both she and his mother had fallen asleep in the master bedroom. At 3:00 p.m., the house was enveloped in silence until Menhaz entered his parents' bedroom, crowbar in hand. He struck his mother in the head and immediately slit her throat with a kitchen knife. Then, he turned to his grandmother and attacked her as well. Once he confirmed both women were dead, he left their bodies side by side on a rug and sat down at his laptop. He opened Discord and sent a message to the group chat with his friends that read, "So far I've killed Mom and Grandma. Now I'm waiting for my sister and dad." When his friends didn't believe him, he sent photographs of the bodies along with a selfie holding the bloodied knife. He followed up with images showing the 2 women lying in pools of blood, displaying no signs of remorse. The young man played video games for hours and even took a nap while waiting for his sister to return home. Around 11 p.m., his sister walked in through the front door. Menhaz struck her in the head with the same crowbar and carried out the same brutal act as he had with the others. He left her bleeding on the floor and returned to his laptop, chatting casually with his Discord friends. At midnight, Menhaz saw the headlights of his father's taxi turning into the driveway and heard the sound of the garage door opening. He stepped away from his computer and confronted his father in the garage, assaulting him with the same crowbar used on the rest of the family. At some point, he slit the throats of all 4 family members to ensure they were dead. Afterward, he returned to his computer and posted another message in the Discord chat. "I've just killed my entire family," adding that he would probably spend the rest of his life in prison. In September 2020, Menhaz pleaded guilty to 3 counts of first-degree murder in the deaths of his grandmother, father, and sister, and 1 count of second-degree murder for the killing of his mother. During sentencing, the judge expressed disbelief at the fact that while his mother and grandmother lay lifeless upstairs, Menhaz played video games and napped apparently at ease, simply waiting for the right moment to murder his sister and father in the same cold-blooded manner. 2 months later, Menhaz appeared in a virtual courtroom restricted due to the COVID-19 pandemic, where he used the opportunity to apologize to anyone negatively affected by his actions. During the sentencing hearing, Menhaz's attorney presented a joint recommendation for his client to serve life imprisonment with no eligibility for parole for 25 years. Additionally, he requested a further 15-year period without parole eligibility for the second-degree murder of his mother, due to uncertainties about whether that particular act had been premeditated and deliberate. The presiding judge, in turn, stated that the crimes were profoundly disturbing and that the defendant warranted the harshest punishment. According to the judge, words such as brutal, cruel, cold, and callous were insufficient to fully convey the magnitude of the violence. He emphasized that no rational member of society could find even a remote justification between the revelation of Menhaz's long-held lie about his university attendance and the savage murder of his 4 closest family members. It was a gross betrayal of trust, one that took place in the sanctity of the family home, a place where all individuals should feel safe. In November 2020, Menhaz was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for 40 years. This means he will be eligible to apply for release when he is 64 years old. Furthermore, he was ordered to submit his DNA to a national registry, and, if ever granted parole, he will be prohibited from owning or possessing firearms for a period of 10 years. The massacre perpetrated by Menhaz left a trail of devastation among all who became aware of the crime. Alpha Nolis, the best friend of Massacre, told the court that he never imagined he would one day have to write a victim impact statement for the loss of his closest friend. He said he had always thought the only speech he would ever write for her would be on the day of her wedding, something that now would never come to pass. He added that since learning about the murders, he had experienced multiple panic attacks in public, terrified of possibly running into Menhaz or encountering someone who resembled him. After the tragic events, the PWB community attempted to process what had happened and reflect on the warning signs they may have overlooked, particularly Menhaz's racist and xenophobic remarks, which in hindsight should have raised immediate concern about the violence to come. To this day, some members of the group who tried to alert the authorities continue to experience trauma. One young individual admitted he can no longer eat properly, while others reported ongoing insomnia. Several people who interacted with Menhaz during those horrifying days expressed deep regret, wishing they had done more to intervene. In 2022, the television network Pico released a documentary titled Perfect World, A Deadly Game. The film featured first-hand accounts from Menhaz's online friends, who recounted the community's coordinated efforts to track down the killer. The case sparked an urgent conversation around youth access to the internet and the disturbing levels of violence permitted in online gaming forums. Hidden behind a screen, it becomes dangerously easy to normalize discriminatory comments. Perhaps if Menhaz had spent more time engaged with the real world, he might have developed a deeper awareness of the consequences of his actions and of the devastating harm his sinister plan would ultimately unleash. With that, we bid you farewell with a heartfelt embrace. And if you haven't subscribed yet, we warmly invite you to do so and become part of this growing community.